Alright, welcome back. In this section we're going to look at some of the more advanced features. We're going to look at sharing the whiteboard, sharing files, sharing apps in the screen, polling, and last but not least we'll take a quick look at making breakout groups. Want to start with sharing the blank whiteboard. A lot of people don't use that much. Some people have kind of some good use for it. So I'll go through that pretty quick. Click on the purple tab in the lower right there, and that'll open up the panel that we need to start getting into what we're doing. Down below, if you didn't see it automatically, if it came up with the chat or if it came up with attendees or something like that, click on the little square with the right turn arrow in it, and we'll get to our share content panel, primary content, secondary content, and interact with the breakout groups. So as I was saying earlier, we're going to start with sharing the blank whiteboard. Simply click on that, you get your whiteboard. A lot of students look at the whiteboard more as kind of a high school thing, so make sure you have kind of a good plan for it and it really works with what you're talking about. You have your text thing going on, click on that. It defaults to blue. If you want black, then do that. You hit a small circle to start. Then you type in your text, you correct any typos which you made in the process, and then from there, if you want to make it larger, you have to go over to the selection tool in the upper left, select it, and then click on one of the points, and then you can make it as large or you can make it as small as you want. Once it's selected, you can delete it one of two ways. You can use the clear, the eraser up here, or you can use the delete key as I just did there. The clear, I believe, clears away pretty much anything that you write on there, or you have to have one thing specifically selected. So if I put in some text and I make a rectangle and I draw a line and I hit the eraser, it clears everything off of there. However, kind of a little pointer hand you can use to point to things. If I draw a line, if I put in text, rectangle, and I select one of those, the eraser still clears everything. So one last shot here. It seems to be working a little differently than it did for me earlier. I'm going to put two things. I'm going to select one, hit the delete key on my keyboard, and it gets rid of the one thing. So if you are a whiteboard fan and whiteboard user, that's basically how it is. There's a couple things in here. You can magnify it larger or smaller. You can use the best fit tool. You have your zoom in, zoom out, and then your one-to-one speed to go back to. So that's about it with the whiteboard. It's fairly similar to what we had before, maybe just a little bit less functional. What I really like about this program though are the next couple things I'm going to get into. And the first thing I want to start talking about, I'm going to build my way up starting with the share files and then the share application screen. Most of us probably for our Collaborate session have it outlined on a PowerPoint, and I've suggested that to a lot of people. That comes back from feedback the students have given me. I always used to just use the whiteboard and type some things in the whiteboard as I was talking, and my course evals were around the 4.2 to 4.5. When I started having a PowerPoint which I put in there, which had everything kind of neatly organized and went from slide to slide, then my course evals went up to like 4.4 to 5. So I think it really does make a difference to have what you're going to talk about outlined in PowerPoint. So in terms of sharing files, you can click in the share files. There's a drag or drop here, and I already have one file in there. Let me get rid of that just to get rid of that to start. So this is pretty easy. You go to the things that you want to drag and drop in. I'll give an example of dragging and dropping a JPEG in there. So I bring it over from my file over to the side. Takes a few minutes to load. This is a pretty good size, about a 3 megabyte photo file from my COM 400, one of the assignments that the students do. Once that loads in, you see it there, you select it, you hit share now, and then you'll see it in your thing. Obviously I have that a little bit big. It's not gonna bring the board back down, is it? Interesting. Okay, so I can get it back down by using the zoom in, the zoom out with it. So this is pretty good. It has a really good clear picture. It loads fairly quickly, which was hard to get the old Collaborate to do. Again, I'll get rid of that file, stop sharing that. One of the cool things that I can do is just simply drag and drop my PowerPoint slides in there. Okay, here we go. My week 1 Collaborate 400. So I'm going to drop that in there. It's going to take a couple minutes to load. The white space is not the largest space in the world where they're loading things here on the left. They've just taken too much room with this control panel on the right. It takes up a third of my screen. Should probably be able to do that job in a quarter or less. So it affects the size of what's in there. But if we're just putting in an outline in PowerPoint of what we're going to talk about that night, it works out okay if you use large enough type, as you can see in my example here. Then it's very readable, and you can go through it. Now, one of the neat things that I like about this is that in the other one, when you left the whiteboard, it took like 4 or 5 minutes to go into sharing different things. I can click in this top at the side and go back to the different ones that I want to get to. Also, along with the things I'm going to talk about in the outline of that, especially in the classes I teach that have graphics, video editing, photo editing, things like that, then I need to bring in some other things and examples. I need to demonstrate how programs work. So here's a great thing we can do where we can still keep our PowerPoint outline for our session very accessible in the share files, and then we can share an application or a screen. Myself, I prefer to share a screen over a simple application because I can open the application in the screen, I believe, and get everything to work. I will see what Camtasia captures here, but I think that'll work. Now, a couple things that I will suggest. Hopefully you can see my screen pretty well. You can notice that I have several tabs open at the top. Underneath the tabs, you can see I have speed buttons, speed icons, bookmarks I believe they're called, to reach different websites. So I highly suggest that you use the speed buttons at the top, the bookmarks, to have the sites that you're going to visit already set up, so you just have to click those and boom, you're there. I'm not in the sharing application quite yet. I'll get there in just a minute. Also notice at the bottom of the screen in Windows, and there's also the dock in the Macs that have this, have the applications that you're going to use in your dock down here and set in there as speed buttons basically. So when you click on something, it'll open for you. Highly suggest that the programs that you're going to use to demonstrate things or to have students demonstrate things, have those open in your computer to start. I have like Excel open, I have Photoshop open, I'll use that in a little bit. I'm going to have 2 browsers open because Chrome is what I have to use for the Collaborate Ultra session. It will share everything I've had in Firefox very nicely. So I can use the Google Chrome to run the Ultra session, and then if I want to visit other websites, which I frequently do in many of my classes, then I can have Firefox to go to in screen sharing. So let me show you how we do this. So then the next thing we're going to do, we're going to go to Share Application screen. I'm going to click on that. I want to share the entire screen, not just one application, because with all my speed buttons and everything, I can just bring things up if they're already open. So right now it shows share my entire screen, and I'm going to hit share, and you'll notice kind of a strange thing happens, and all of a sudden our board there telescopes away away and gone into infinity. Don't let that freak you out, because this is why you have things in the tabs down below. So I'm going to go down below and I'm going to click on my folder, and I'm going to open that up, and now it should be working really well. Hopefully you see one of my students' videos on the Temecula community. Let me play that for a minute. And down here at the middle bottom of the screen, you can see where it says desktop sharing, sharing your screen. So hopefully that's indicating it's going to share. I'll find out when I review this video. And it's great. The other, I couldn't share any videos because they wouldn't run even anywhere close to real time in the other Collaborate sessions with the old Java version. Here you can see things run fairly well. This one's going a little bit slower than when I ran it earlier. Its natural speed's a little bit faster with it. But you know, it's going pretty nice. I can use this to instruct my tool. I couldn't use video at all in my other in the other program. So that's a really great thing. Video from different websites. If you want to go somewhere and you want to show something, this is a live feed from the surfline.com. It even takes streaming video and runs the streaming video pretty much in real time. So now you can look at YouTube videos and not have them hang up and things like that. So these are kind of really good things that are so much better than what we had going before. This has kind of turned my opinion of the whole program around. If we can, this works this easily, yeah, this is a really good thing. I can even have my Photoshop open. Instead of having to go somewhere else, now I can just go through here and I can get my student's photo open here. Again, this is something that was very, very difficult to get to happen in the old version of Collaborate. It would take a long time to open, and then the quality would be distorted. Now we can open it and I can see exactly what the student did for their job. I can see how they colored it. I can see how they did the levels to it and things like that. Made it a decent photo. This one has a couple things that could be a little bit better, but it's not a bad photo, and it's better than the average person takes too. So this is really for my courses, COM 400, where we're creating these assets that they're going to someday be putting into campaigns and things like that. Probably a lot of our students are going to be managing campaigns more than doing the actual graphics work, but they need to be able to see this and know what quality work is and what bad work is, so they can have an idea when someone gives them quality work or bad work. So this is kind of an exciting thing to have, definitely. And when I want to stop sharing, down about 2/3 of the screen at the bottom, there's a blue button, Stop Sharing. I hit the Stop Sharing. I minimize my one on top. I can go back to Share Files, and bingo, I can click on the Collaborate 400, Share Now, and click on the screen wherever I left off, and I'm back to my lecture in my for the class that night. So this is, I think, much better than what we've had in the past in terms of integration, of being able to switch between the materials that we really need. Just the web thing is so much better. It's like, wow, thank heavens. So a couple last things that I want to look at. I'm going to go back. I can close and stop sharing the whiteboard if I want by clicking this square up here, but I want to keep that, let's say, till the end of the course. So I can go back up to the top, click on the Navigate Slides. That'll bring me back to the basic menu. Click up there a couple times. Last couple things that I want to point out here. There's a polling feature in here, and it could be used pretty well, but it takes a lot of pre-planning. You click on the polling. The questions have to basically be set up. It doesn't, when I click, let's say I want something with 4 choices for an answer, and I click down, I start the poll. You can see it gives me no response, and it gives me 1, 2, 3, 4, but I can't type in here what the responses are. So I have to think this out in advance. I have to set it up in either PowerPoint. I need a page in PowerPoint that's going to basically have the question and then the 4 responses, and then I can ask them to click the poll response that they have, and then we'll get the answer from that. So to me, that's just kind of a clunky thing. It would be awesome if we could put the responses in here and we could put the question in spontaneously above it at the same time, but that's just not there. So you can lock the poll when you want it to be done. You can on then bottom right clear the poll. Well, in theory you should be able to clear it. I guess you have to unlock it first. No, that gets rid of the clear. Hopefully when you click it once to clear it, yeah, it gets rid of it. So that's a kind of a cool little tool. If you take the time, it could be used and do some good things. Last thing I'll draw your attention to here are the breakout groups. These work pretty similar to our previous functions in Collaborate with it. I open it up. You have custom assignment. I think because there's no one in the groups right now, then I can't do a custom assignment. You can allow attendees to switch groups if you want. You have 2 groups set up by default. You can click and add a 3rd group if you want to. This is pretty good. Some of our later classes, starting with OrgComm, have small groups, so you can also give the small groups time to meet during your Collaborate sessions and then communicate with each other. You can join these different ones. Let me click Start. So it'll start out the breakout rooms, puts the moderator in the main room. There's a little page with a green arrow to it, so you can join group 1, group 2, group 3, whichever one you want to join. Let's do group 2. So when you do group 2, you can see that it then connects your audio and your video to them. Also gives you another thing. It tells you your experience, I guess, is excellent with your audio and video. Attendee controls is here. You can make a captioner, or you can move to another group selection, and then I guess maybe just clicking the group. And maybe not that easy. That apparently changes the name of the group. Anyway, so it's pretty much similar to what we're using before. Again, you can go to the pages to enter the group. You can go back to the main room at that particular point in time. So that should kind of do it of the different features, and hopefully you'll find them to be a significant advantage over what we used before. I presented them in a particular way so you can switch back fairly effortlessly between the sharing of the sharing files. And again, the sharing files, if I didn't mention it, you can put in a JPEG, a PowerPoint, or a PDF file in this share files. Other files won't work, but this is a great application to put your PowerPoint outline of your night session and then the different media things that you need. Use this share application, have things set up with your tabs at the top already. You notice that I had to move to a separate tab. Once I got that telescoping effect in there, then I had to go to another tab that had content to get out of that screen with the telescope happening. When I then closed the sharing, then the telescoping went away and the screen went back to normal. So hopefully this is helpful. If you have any questions on things, give me a call. Again, this particular tutorial was made for a Windows computer with one screen. I'll keep looking at these. If there's a need to make one for Mac users, I did, when I was in the training, have my Mac not function on several of the key things like the sharing files and the share application screen. So if I find it's not working on the Mac side, I'll make another video for this, and then we'll kind of go from there. Hopefully this will work. If it does work, then I'll leave this one for both Mac and PC, and I'll make another one for people that have two screens. That makes life just a little bit easier too, I think, with it. So alright, well, thank you for listening through, and I'm going to wish you the best of success in your classes.